Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to welcome you to the very first episode of Geek Garage Goes to the Movies. It is me and my good buddy Ted White.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I am very excited. I hope you're excited as well.
I am.
That's good. Excellent. That is step one, getting your co-host, your brand new co-host excited.
Yes.
Preferably just as excited as you are. Hopefully.
I'm like a 6 out of 10. You're
Okay.
like a 9.
I'll accept that.
All right. That's all you're going to get.
So basically how this came about is I realized that I was doing quite a few movie episodes, and I didn't necessarily, while movies obviously fall under the realm of geek media, I didn't want them to overpower the other topics that are geek media related. So yeah, that's when you kind of stepped in, and of course we did the episode on Velvet Buzzsaw and the Retro on Nightcrawler, and then we did the Matrix, was it the 20th anniversary, and then we did the Love, Death, and Robots, and we realized that we had a lot of fun, and since we've known each other for a really long time, we really enjoyed doing them. Yeah, we made for a really good pair, and we just decided to kind of make this new quote-unquote chapter of the Geek Garage podcast where it would be only focused on movies and, like Netflix original film and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know when we talked about it, you had mentioned pretty much all the things you've already said where you thought we had good episodes. We made
a good team.
We made a good team. We were churning out good episodes, but at the same time, you expressed some concerns about just turning Geek Garage into Dave and Ted talk about movies for an hour every week.
Yeah.
And so I guess you were just like, fuck it, and made a new podcast that was just, hey, Dave and Ted are going to talk about the movies. Listen to it or don't. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. It actually took us a lot longer to figure out the game plan overall than really anything. Like we went back and forth between this idea and creating a brand new podcast that obviously would be movies, and we would just have the Geek Garage be the Geek Garage, and they would be two completely separate entities and two RSS feeds, two websites, blah blah blah. But we already have the established fan base for Geek Garage,
all four of you,
and yes, thank all four of you out there that are listening. No, I think there's a few more than that.
Definitely, especially after MTAC, where I gave out so many buttons, and surprisingly and thankfully did not catch a charge.
Yes, that's always a plus when that does not happen.
Yeah, no arrests.
Right. But yeah, like I was saying, we eventually came to the conclusion that since we already had a relatively okay-sized listener base established with the Geek Garage, and we could just kind of create this chapter within Geek Garage, and that will just add to the amount of content that we can put out under this, the umbrella. So yeah, like I said, it's all going to be, movie centric. I think we're going to do all kinds of, obviously all genres of film.
Right.
But we decided to do both, like quote unquote evergreen material, like movies that have been out for a little while, and topics that, kind of don't go out of style, but also like new releases.
Yeah.
To stay,
topical and current, right?
Yep.
So obviously, with it being a brand new podcast, we're going to be ironing some things out. Not just a brand new podcast, but like a brand new endeavor within the Geek Garage umbrella, like you said. So like blog posts and things like that. There's going to be some kinks to iron out. There's going to be some growing pains, but
overall, it's going to be for the better.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid idea, and this frees us up to be able to focus on this, but not take away from some of the other things that the Geek Garage could cover that maybe I'm not as into or don't really have the interest in that a lot of the fan base of the Geek Garage does. So obviously you'd want to cover those topics. So yeah, I think it'll work out for the best. I'm excited. You're excited.
Yeah, we're aiming to initially do this. I think every week or so. We're both pretty big losers.
Yeah.
So we like it that way.
Yeah. I enjoy my chill.
We intentionally keep our slates pretty clean and free of events on purpose. We're the kind of people that are like, God, I really hope no one invites me out to do anything. So yeah, that's our plan as of right now, is to do an episode a week. And in addition to all the Geek Garage material,
right.
which, of course, is since the dawn of the podcast, there's never been a set schedule because life's nuts. But now that I have Ted, we can hold ourselves more accountable.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about is we don't necessarily have to be, both of us necessarily don't have to be on every episode. Mm-hmm. So like if there's a week where you've got something going on, or like I really want to talk about a movie that you haven't seen or you didn't like,
right?
I can bang out a 45-minute episode on my own.
Yeah.
And the reverse is true also. So like if you want to cover something in particular that I haven't seen, or like I got to work or something, you can bust out something on your own, and that way there's still content out there for those of you that actually give a shit, which is just David and I probably, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm going to keep doing it as long as I have fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, so I think it was you that came up with the idea for John Wick. I think it was you who came up with all of our topics. I don't know if we want to bust our nut so quickly and release the topics.
I don't think we want to do all the things we have. I will say that like David said, we have talked about this. There is some planning. As hard as that is to believe, we did plan this out a little bit. Our first episode, spoiler, will be about John Wick. It'll be a retrospective. We'll kick that off here in just a second. I don't want to give away everything we're going to do, but we do have a few episodes planned. Mm-hmm. I will say that I think the first 4 or 5 episodes, or maybe the first 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6, something like that.
They're all pretty topical.
They're all going to be pretty topical. 2 of them in the month of May. One of them is John Wick. The other one shall remain nameless. But if you could put 2 and 2 together, you can probably figure it out. It's another big movie.
Big.
It's coming out. And then some other ones that we're into. They maybe aren't quite like quote unquote blockbusters, but are still going to be fairly big movies with a lot of hype behind them. So I'm pretty excited about it. I've got a few evergreen topics, like you mentioned, that I'm ready to fire off on. Yeah. So I think it's going to be good. But that's enough of us talking about movies. Let's just talk about movies.
Yes. Let us end this and transition into our conversation about John Wick and John Wick Chapter 2. And some philosophizing about John Wick Chapter 3. Parabellum.
Yeah, it's John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It's a very verbose title,
but it's gonna be amazeballs. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let's go. Now, this is serious. Do you check under your bed for Baba Yaga?
I do. That thing's terrifying.
Yeah, he really is. You know who doesn't have to check under their bed for Baba Yaga? Is Chuck Norris.
Okay, yeah.
However, Chuck Norris has to check under his bed for Keanu Reeves. Dun dun dun! John Wick explosion! That's exactly how we're gonna start this motherfucking podcast. I've officially broken Ted, and we're off to a great start. What do you want to start on, Ted? I guess the first John Wick movie would be appropriate to start with, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go about it in like a sensical fashion, is that a fucking word?
In a way that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
We should start with the first one.
Cool.
I fucking love these movies.
They're legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
It's almost like, I remember hearing about this movie for the first time, and I was like, okay, somebody has basically hacked my brain because this is the kind of shit I think about on a regular basis. Like, I just want to break down how perfect this movie seriously seems like it was created in a lab specifically for Ted White. I'm not even kidding, right?
I mean, based off of your affinity for Keanu Reeves and...
Yes, I am a well-known Keanu apologist, and I will die on every Keanu-related hill.
Mm-hmm. As you should.
Right, but let's just talk about this. Keanu Reeves playing a stoic badass.
Right.
That's a definite... That's very on brand for me.
Yes.
Right? Neon lights in a large city. Mm-hmm. That is very on brand for things that I like. Kevin Nash, former professional wrestler with a cameo as a Russian bouncer. That is a very on-brand Ted thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Muscle cars. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's throw those in there. Oh, and finally, let's have a dude kill about 5,000 people in the span of 90 minutes in various ways that are all increasingly absurd. I'm going to find who wrote this movie, and I'm going to sue the shit out of them because this is every dream I've ever had in a 96-minute film. I love it.
It's so good.
It is. It's really great.
And I also love it. I mean, I can't put it into words that Ted just put it in because I'm kind of lame.
I also have a little bit of a problem with this. So
It's all right. We all have problems. I have problems. But no, I didn't end up seeing the first John Wick until we've had this conversation. I didn't end up seeing it until chapter 2 was about to come out.
Right.
And I think it was right about to come out, and I was like, I all of a sudden started hearing a lot of hype about the second one. And I was like, are these movies really that good? Because it was kind of, we were discussing how it was almost like a revival or renaissance for these kinds of like action thriller movies.
Definitely.
Because they were like really big in sort of the 80s, but especially the 90s. And all of a sudden they were kind of getting made again in a relatively spectacular fashion, like with the first Taken movie. We kind of agreed that was a good one. But like I said, when people were getting all hype about the second one, I hadn't even seen the first one, like I said, and I was like, are they really that good? And people were like, dude, you have no fucking clue. Like, just watch them. And I was like, all right. I mean, like, I've never not been a fan of Keanu Reeves, but I'm just late to his game. Like, coming in and watching his more notable stuff. Of course, you know, obviously I've seen The Matrix because we did the fucking Matrix episode.
Right.
But as far as like the catalog of movies that he's done that, you know, that are pretty good or outstanding or, you know, noteworthy, I really haven't seen a whole lot of them. So coming into John Wick wasn't something that I really foresaw my. Is that a word?
Foresaw, yeah.
Okay. I didn't see myself doing like without the recommendation of others, and so that's kind of what led me to.
Right. I remember seeing the trailers when they started coming out and being like, yeah, that looks all right. But I was kind of like, we'll see, you know. Right. It came out on DVD, and I remember I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and his roommate had just bought the first John Wick and the movie Birdman with Michael Keaton.
Right.
Which is a really strange like pairing. I don't know why he had both of them. He had just literally bought them like that day. We ended up watching.
Birdman's fucking dope too.
Yeah, well, that's actually what we ended up watching was Birdman because me and my buddy are huge Michael Keaton nerds. I'm also a Michael Keaton apologist, but for different reasons.
He's great too. He
is very good. And then I remember his roommate being like, "Dude, fucking John Wick is the shit," and I was like, "Yeah, you're kind of an idiot, so I don't know that I believe you." But then I was like on vacation or something. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna get some movies from Redbox." That's one of the ones I picked up, and it was like, I immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I saw John Wick 2 opening weekend. That was an awesome experience because it was super late on a Sunday night. It was like me and 4 other people.
Dope.
That was dope.
Yep.
And I'm going opening night with some friends to see Chapter 3.
And I can't believe
it's going to be.
You didn't schedule that to take me, you bastard.
No. Sometimes it'd be like that.
You know, it's all right. I am not one of those guys that's going to be like, you are doing stuff without me. How fucking dare you?
Yeah, well, we're not married. So
yeah, exactly.
That's why. We're barely friends, even, really. So.
When you get down to it, no, I thought a good. So John Wick, the first one is not chapter 1; it's just John Wick.
Right, it's just titular.
But if it did have a subtitle or a chapter name, I think it should be like John Wick: Happy Accidents, because as I was writing notes and we were discussing things about the first film before we started recording, I realized, or both of us realized, that there was a lot of happy accidents, and we'll get into some of those, here throughout the recording. But one of the ones is the long sequences and takes of the action shots, and I guess this is good time as any to transition into the actual source material. So yeah, one of the biggest things that these movies are praised for is the long action shots.
They're right. The action choreography and the framing of the shots and everything, definitely.
Right, and
it's very well deserved.
Yes. But you were explaining that one of the reasons that the shots are long is because they literally couldn't afford to do a bunch of takes.
Right. So I mean, I don't think it's like breaking news for anybody that movies are really expensive to make.
Right.
You know, they're really expensive to shoot. So one of the things that the directors, which I guess technically it was co-directed by David Leitch, who was uncredited due to some like DGA rules.
Yeah, some weird
he and Chad
bureaucratic film nonsense. Right. You can only have like one director credit
outside of like special circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, so, like I mean the Coen brothers and the Wachowskis, they get away.
Those
with
are pretty big
because
like the kind of the two biggest names, or I guess four biggest names in directing you could point to as like pair directors rather than. You know, it's mostly just one person.
But yeah, it was David Leitch, who's also done Atomic Blonde, which is another
also a
fucking
great movie,
fantastic
which we will probably
film.
talk about at some point.
Yeah, and we, especially if they end up making a sequel, I can imagine why.
I know that Charlize Theron, who played the titular Atomic Blonde character.
Yeah.
And I'm sure David Leitch does too, but I know he just finished. Or, well, I guess they've been finished filming for a while now, but the Hobbs and Shaw movie that's coming out. Now, I've been out on the Fast and the Furious basically since the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, you can probably go into this movie pretty cold on the Fast and Furious films.
Right.
Just know that Jason Statham was in...
He was in one of them, two of them. Doesn't matter. None of this matters.
Yeah. If you're that concerned about the storyline with
you're in the wrong
Fast
movie.
and Furious movies, then
the Fast and Furious extended universe. Nobody gives a shit.
Right, but Chad Stileski.
He was the other. He was the credited director.
He's the director that is actually credited.
Right, but in an interview, he was saying, you know, we didn't set out necessarily to make a very. Well, let me back up. Obviously, they wanted to create like a very action-packed movie, right? Because he's a former stuntman. He was kind of stuntman in The Matrix. I think he was also Brandon Lee's stuntman on The Crow, but I'm not as certain about that.
Right.
So obviously, he's going to want to make like just like a balls-to-the-wall action movie, right? But I don't think they set out for it to be like quite so, I guess for lack of a better word, like cinematic in the sense of like sweeping shots and like super style. Well, maybe stylized, but I mean stylized in the sense of, you know, like the long takes and things.
Yeah, like they wanted to make a good action thriller.
Right, and they definitely had an idea for how to make it stylized, but in the sense of, again, like the super long takes and things like that. And basically he said the reason we did that is because we didn't have any fucking money.
Yeah. You
know, I think the budget was like $20 million for the first John Wick, which, I mean, that's a lot of money, definitely, but in terms of like a big action movie, that's nothing.
Right.
You know, to put that in perspective, like, Avengers Endgame was probably 12 or 15 times that budget easily, you know. So I mean, and that's a big scale movie, but you know, he was like, we just didn't have the fucking money to set up and reshoot from different angles.
Yeah, so they basically approached Keanu Reeves like, hey bro, like we only have like $5 to film this.
Right.
So is it okay if you train for like 4 months in like 5 different things, including jujitsu and like gun kata and
Right.
like close and long range shooting, and also we're gonna need you to film like 15-second film segments for this movie because we don't have money to like cut and like have our people set up. And I think you told me about this, and later I read it on the IMDb trivia that they actually reused stuntmen in the same shot. Like they would kind of duck and cover out of the shot, and they would just come back in.
I can't remember what scene it is specifically, but there's one of the long scenes where Wick is just like mowing dudes down, which describes like 85 of the 96 minutes of this movie. But
I can imagine it could be the first scene where they come to his house.
I know it's not the house scene because they describe that the guy's in a suit. I think it's one of the later set pieces where maybe it's where he's storming the hangar or the warehouse where he finds Vigo's son. I can't remember for sure, but anyway, where the first guy he kills in the scene is also the last guy.
Right.
Where he shoots the guy and the guy quote unquote dies, falls off, and the camera keeps following Wick. So that stuntman or that extra pops back up, runs to the back of the line, and then gets killed again to close the shot out.
Right,
because they were just like...
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Right. It's a very green movie.
Yes, it is. It is.
Because, again, they didn't have the budget to hire like 50 guys to just go out and pretend to get shot for every scene.
They did a great job of making lemonade out of lemons.
Right.
With the budget that they were given for this film, and just in this aspect in particular, was great. The long action sequences, which is why I was saying that it was kind of there's a relatively long string of happy accidents that came out of the restrictions that they had, like the budget.
Right. Something else, I'm not sure if this is like a budget thing necessarily, or maybe it's like an intentional stylistic choice at the hands of the writer or the creators. But like, I love that it's building this whole like underground universe basically of like there's this assassins guild and all these people are involved, and like obviously the police know about it because the cop shows up at his door and he's like, hey, you back working?
Right.
And he's just like, unfortunately, and the cop's just like, peace, I'm out, you know, I don't want no problems, you know. But they have like their own currency of these gold coins. It's like there's all this stuff that's kind of just at the fringes. And it doesn't just beat you over the head with exposition like a lot of movies do. Like, hey, this is the Assassins Guild, and this is how it works. It treats you like an adult.
An adult, yeah.
Right.
Like you're not.
It assumes you can
put
It assumes you can put 2 and 2 together. Like, oh, obviously these coins. You know, it doesn't matter. Really, truly, it doesn't matter how they're minted. Who gives a shit? I want to see John Wick shoot people in the face for another 20 minutes. That's all I'm here for.
Right. Like. You know? Would you like a bottle of bourbon in your room? Yes, please. Okay, money, please.
Coin.
Right. I need coin right now. Gold coin.
So I think that's really cool. And again, I don't know that that's necessarily a budgetary thing. It definitely could be, because it's like, hey, we don't really have the money to film another 5 minutes worth of scenes to explain any of this. But I think it works out.
Yeah. Regardless of that was intentional based on their budget or not. Regardless, it played in the film's and the director's favor.
100%. I know that originally in writing this movie, they had pictured it being an older person. So like, I think someone in their like late 50s or 60s. So like, they definitely have that world wariness. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, you hear legends about this dude because he's been a hitman for the last 3.5 decades. You know, I can't remember who decided this, but they were like, that doesn't really work, so let's age it down a little bit. They got Keanu, who's not as old in terms of calendar age, but still has that. He's been around for a while. He's a known commodity. And he's not super young, but he's also not super old.
I'm not clued into the Underground Assassins game at all, but I can imagine that Keanu is up there in retirement age. Like, I can imagine that it's a game that you can just play until you die if you're in it for the long haul, right? Which it seems like most people would be, but It definitely seems like the assassin game would bode well.
Seems like a young man's game, so to speak.
For the young man. And so having Keanu, quote unquote, come out of retirement and just mow people down, and the fact that he's basically better than ever, just scares the ever living shit out of pretty much everyone.
You're right, as well as should. Like, I love how.
Well, I guess not everyone. I mean, the fucking Theon
Greyjoy's punk ass.
Yeah, he's like, I'll take him and anyone else.
But then when his father Viggo kind of explains it to him, I think he realizes like,
with
I
swift
fucked
punch
up.
to the gut.
Right. And that's another thing I really love about it is like it's really it straddles that line of show don't tell.
Yeah. Really
well. And this is a scene. Ironically, I'm going to discuss a scene where like they tell you. But they also back it up. They don't just throw it as a line. They don't throw the line out there of like John Wick's a badass and just expect you to take it. They tell you, his father tells that story about like, nah, man, you don't know who you're fucking with.
Right.
John Wick is the dude. Right.
Yeah.
He just comes out. He's like, oh, he's the boogeyman. Like, nah, this is who you send to kill the fucking boogeyman.
Right.
He talks about
Baba Yaga.
I saw him kill 3 men with a fucking pencil.
Yes, which is a call to the storyline in the book that the security guard is reading.
Right, which not just a call; scene. It's like a scene directly lifted from that.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, and it's like it just continues to build that myth of John Wick basically being like the angel of death,
right?
But then again, it goes and it shows that where he's like just mowing these dudes down who are like security for the mob,
right?
Like the Russian mafia. And to kind of wrap it up, it's like John Wick is so terrifying because even the fucking like king of Russian mob, the please edit this. I sound like a moron. The king of the Russian mob is basically like, dude, you woke up the devil. All right, you fucked up, kid.
Pretty much.
And that's what's awesome about it. Like John Leguizamo calls him, and he's just like, the Viggo calls John Leguizamo's character, and he's like, did you strike my son? And he's like, yeah, because he fucking pissed off John Wick. Hell yeah, I was gonna shoot him.
He's like, and he's just like, oh,
right.
Well, that's completely understable. I'll talk to you later.
I'm gonna hit him too. In fact,
harder.
right.
I'm gonna beat your ass with Charles. In fact,
but it sets up that he's just like. Like I said, he's basically Thanos but scarier.
Yeah,
like, he's like the angel of death for real.
Yeah, like he would show up and Thanos would be like, I'm out.
That's how Endgame should have ended.
Yeah, I don't think they could have
figured out. Disney owns everything. Right. They can buy John Wick. Unfortunately, please don't. I love these movies. Don't ruin them.
Yes. But yeah. Let's see. I had down stuff that. Things about this movie that sets it apart from other action thrillers, like
right. So
we kind of already touched on a few.
Right.
I think just the time apart from when we had our last phase of like a lot of other action thrillers, for a while, and we had a break, and now we have like updated technology, and it was properly utilized. Like the shots, I think they were mostly done at the end during the end credits, but like the drone shots of just panning down the city, the overhead shots are fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
like just little things like that. I thought. Make great additions to this the movie.
And another line this movie strides really well is it could very easily just be a bad movie, right? Like the plot is kind of like pulpy.
I mean, it's very simple,
right?
It's not necessarily something very original,
right? But what really sets it apart is the execution. Mm-hmm. So like if you have just like a random action movie director, number 4, and they direct this movie, it's going to look like 90% of other action movies out there that are indistinguishable from one another. Mm. You know what I mean? What sets it apart is like you can tell it's definitely a labor of love.
Yeah.
with two guys, in Stileski and Leach, that are making movies they like because they've worked on action movies because they're stunt guys.
Yeah. And then there's rapport with Keanu Reeves.
Right, because again, Stileski was his stunt man. Leach also, I believe, worked on The Matrix in some capacity as a stunt performer or stunt choreographer. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But you can tell it's definitely a labor of love, which sets it apart. Because like I said, if you just hire some random guy who's, trying to make it basically in Hollywood and he thinks this is a big shot, it's going to be super by the numbers because he's going to try and make a movie that's going to appeal to everybody. Whereas Stileski was like, I have a vision for this. This is how it's going to be. And to pull this off with like $20 million is almost absurd.
Right. Yeah. Like other filmmakers that need more to do less, like you should be fucking ashamed of yourself.
Right. I did a little, research is a strong word, but I looked up some things on the internet and I saw that this movie has a 68 on Metacritic, a 68 because it's out of 100 for critics on Metacritic.
Okay.
But like the majority of these reviews are positive.
Okay.
And then the negative ones really drag it out. So like I saw one review that gave it like a 12 and they were like, oh, it's just how many times can I watch Keanu Reeves pretend to shoot somebody in the head? And I was like, infinite? I don't know. You just keep running and I'll let you know when I get tired. Right?
Yeah.
But then like user score is 8.1. Right? So this is definitely it's not high art, but it's not trying to be. I think it's artistic, but nobody's going to confuse it with like a French New Wave film. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It knows what it is. And it's hits, very self-aware.
Right, and it hits all those beats well. And that's why it's such an enjoyable movie. Yeah. It's just because it's like, it's not trying to be anything it's not. It's just like, hey,
you want to see Keanu Reeves? 90-minute film.
Right. You want to see Keanu Reeves shoot a bunch of dudes? Yes, I do. Sign me up. Cool.
There you go.
I kind of like John Wick 2 better.
I think that's a pretty good opportunity to segue into John Wick Chapter 2. This is another thing we were discussing off air, but we've both gone back and forth with this topic of which one's better. Like they both do certain things really well, but I think I'm finally ready to make my decision, and I think it's Chapter 2.
John Wick Chapter 2. This rose is for you.
Right. It could be presented in a way like, oh, you can't compare the two. Like, you could potentially make that argument. I'm not personally ready to make that argument because I'm not prepared, and I just come off as stupid. But yeah, I think Chapter 2 is a little bit stronger of a film, and I did a poll on Facebook. I forgot to look at the results. I guess I could look that up. Do you want to add to
Sure.
it?
Yeah. I think the reason I like 2 better is because it takes all the good parts of 1, which is basically the whole movie, but that's another discussion. It takes all the good parts and it's just like, let's turn the dial up. So it goes from being like,
turn it up to 11 and then rip
the knob off. Right. It basically turns it up to 10. Right. So instead of like one guy that John Wick has to take out, he has to take out, like Santino plus Santino's personal bodyguard Ares, and it's like now Common's involved, and it's like the whole fucking family's worth of bodyguards are coming after him. It's just like, you liked all this shit, here's twice as much of it.
Right.
It's almost like they Pimp My Ride at the movie.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of ties into this is, so we talked a little bit about the financing for the first film, and it was, only like $20 million, which is not a lot, and it made $88 million. So the Chapter 2, it got twice as much. It got $40 million, if you can't do math, and then it ended up making $171 million at the box office. So they obviously, they doubled their budget, and they were able to do more. And of course, we all know, seeing movies that start out as one and then turn into a franchise is a lot of directors and filmmakers and production crews, they like to throw all their extra money for the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth films into, you know, the FX and CGI and all that business. But I really think that they made the wisest of decisions to take that extra money and really better the film.
Right.
Like truly better the film, like, you know, better locations, cooler locations. You know, we got the setting in Rome, wherever that is.
I'm not 100% that it's Rome. It's definitely somewhere in Italy.
Yeah.
Where it's like the catacombs, or like it reminded me a little bit of like aqueducts. I don't know if it was like a castle or what, where they're having like a rave for some reason.
Yes.
As like a coronation party for his sister.
Yeah, a little trivia tidbit. That weird like strings rave band that was playing, they are also the ones that did the score for the film. So yeah.
Which, like, I remember arguing with people that were like, I don't know, I didn't really like the party or the rave. I was like, what are you, dumb? You know, like, that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's the shootout in the catacombs. It does a little bit of the, like, universe expanding, which, I mean, your results may vary. If you're into that, you're into it. If you're not, you're kind of like, all right, get back to where you're shooting people in the face.
Right.
I was kind of into it because, again, they don't, like, beat you over the head with, like, exposition. They expect you, you know, they expect that you can keep up because it ain't rocket science, you know. So you see that it's not just a network in like New York, it's like worldwide. It's legit, which is really cool. I'm into bad puns and stuff like that, so I thought some of the euphemisms and some of the like wordplay they were using, where he's talking about like I need a new suit, and he's like, oh, is this a formal affair? And he's like building him a Teflon, you know, like bulletproof 3-piece suit. Yeah. You know,
that sequence was awesome.
Yeah. And where he's going to he asked for like the sommelier, and it's a fucking gunsmith. You know? Like, he's just like, I'm gonna need something for a big party, and he's like, oh, I have a 12 gauge pump shotgun.
He's like a very sexy Q.
Right. Yes, indeed. He was a good looking fella.
Yeah, he's Andy Dwyer's London friend from those parts of Parks and Rec, and he played a short role in the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right on.
And
I did not know either of those things.
He's been in a couple things, but yeah, he's a very attractive London man.
Okay.
Anyways,
but I thought all that was really cool. Like I said, I think it took the best parts of the first movie and just cranked the knob.
Yes.
Cranked the knob up.
Yep. I will definitely agree to that. I thought in addition to that, I thought that the fight sequences were a little bit better. They were a little bit more creative. I thought, like, case in point, the Hall of Mirrors or the Room of Mirrors, whatever that art exhibition was,
right?
Where, you know, they went in and there's just mirrors all over the place, like a fun house, but people are trying to murder you. I mean, that's not part of the art exposition.
It became that.
Yes. And
I dug that a lot. It reminded me a little bit of Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is a very different sort of movie.
Okay.
Done by Panos Cosmatos, who also did Mandy, which is another one of my... Oh, yeah. That's probably on my top 10 all-time list. I really have to think about it, but it's up there.
Yeah. Yeah, you lent me that, and I was like, okay.
My friend Ted's fucking weird. That's probably what you were thinking the whole time.
No, not really. I was thinking that this movie's fucking weird.
Yeah. So not to get sidetracked, but anyway, there's a scene in Beyond the Black Rainbow where it's like a bunch of mirrors and the character standing in front of them. It just it's a very different scene in John Wick that just the mirrors themselves reminded me of that.
Yeah, there's that, and then like the whole sequence of John Wick and Common's character. I can't remember the name of his character right now.
Right.
But that whole
through
part
like the
mall
into the subway.
Yes, that was fucking incredible.
That was a very good sequence there.
Because it was basically it was just that, like, it wasn't broken up by. I mean, there was like down moments where they broke the glass where they they were fighting and they broke the glass of the Continental.
Italian Continental, yeah.
and they were like, well, let's have a drink.
Right.
And then they're like, all right, let's fight again.
Right. Yeah, that's an awesome scene because I just love where they bump into one another basically at this party. And he's like, "You working?" "Afraid so." And then like you see the wheels turning, and Common's like, "Oh fuck!" Like,
right.
He realizes like what happened.
Yeah.
I dug that. I also think that the climax or like the final kill or what have you in 2 is a little more satisfying than in John Wick 1. In Wick 1, he kills the son who started the whole thing.
Right.
And it's just kind of, it's almost like flippant because he's just taking out the whole, like, basically army of bodyguards that he has. He's just wreaked havoc on this hangar.
He's just like, it was just a fucking...
Right. Which, I mean, that's not unsatisfying, exactly.
Right.
But you're kind of like, man, I just watched 90, okay, it could have been cooler. And I think this one's better because you've got, I can't remember, Ian McShane's character just running up and he's like, Jonathan, let's think about this. And Wick's just like, nah, suck it. Bam! Caps the dude in the fucking restaurant in the Continental. Like, it's just like, and then sets the gun down and just like pulls his dick out onto the table. Like, that's basically what happens.
Yeah, Ian McShane's just like,
oh my God, it is 14 inches.
What have you... Yeah, that's exactly what he says. He's just like, what have you done? But,
right.
I mean... I can't remember if it was during that exchange or the last scene in the movie where they meet in the park. Mm-hmm. But he's like, yeah, bro, I get it. Like, I mean, I wish you wouldn't have broken my fucking rules.
Right.
And, killed a guy in my
fucking dining room.
Palace. Yeah, but,
That's definitely not the Flatiron Building.
Yeah, but, dude's got to do what he's got to do. And...
My only... complaint is not the right word because it's not really a complaint. Complaint's too strong. But you take Wick from the first one, who, like I said, is basically like the avenging angel of death, right? And in the second one, he basically gets played for a rube several times, where like he's getting used to do somebody else's bidding. I wasn't a huge fan of that. Like from a storyline perspective, like it makes sense. It's not like bad writing or anything. It's just like, man, I kind of want to see more of Wick just being the ultimate badass. Which I think is pretty much what we're going to get in Parabellum.
Yeah. I mean, basically everyone in the entire fucking universe is coming after this dude, and he has to take measures like riding a horse with a katana, attacking dudes on motorcycles.
That's what I love about this movie franchise. Is like, if you had told me, if you came up to me and you were like, hey, I saw a movie where a guy rides a horse down the street in New York City and slashes at a guy on a motorcycle with a katana, I'd be like, dude, that sounds fucking stupid. Don't ever speak to me again. But Keanu Reeves does it, and I'm like, opening night, I am fucking there. In IMAX, in 3D,
right?
Probably masturbating furiously.
as you should be.
As one does,
yes.
Right? I actually love, I've been getting super hyped for this movie. It comes out next weekend. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm going Thursday night with some friends.
Without me, fucker.
You'll live. I will go see it again. Believe that.
Yeah.
I love that the director came out and he was just like, people are saying, like, don't you think viewers are going to be fatigued? And he's like, I want them to be fatigued. Right. I want them to watch this movie and be like, fuck, that was an awesome ride.
If you're not coming out of the movie theater with a nosebleed, then you probably didn't watch the same movie that I did. Right.
Like, basically, he's just like, I don't know about y'all punk asses, but I make basically pure Colombian white with your stepped on shit. Right? Like,
yeah.
It's just, but no, like a direct quote he gave, I think this was to Empire, if I'm not mistaken. He was just like, I want action fatigue. I want you to finish the movie and go, oh, what a ride. And again, he was a stunt guy, so that makes a lot of sense. He wants to just go balls to the wall with it. I do love in the trailer, there's that scene where he's like, what do you need? And Keanu's just like, guns. Lots of guns. Which is a great nod to The Matrix, which of course has that same line where they go to rescue Morpheus. And he's like, what do you need, Neo? And he's like, fucking all the guns. And then just racks of guns come out. That's so dope.
Yeah, there's actually at least one or two callbacks to The Matrix between John Wick 1 and Chapter 2.
Right, and of course they get a little more overt into where you have Lawrence Fishburne, and that's a reunion, of course, who played Morpheus.
Yeah, that was another thing that the bigger budget for Chapter 2 allotted for was those big name cameos and and stars. Like, of course, they were able to get Ian McShane to come back. He's a pretty big name, and and then they had Common and.
I think like Willem Dafoe. So the first one didn't have like Keanu Reeves and then a bunch of nobodies.
Right. It definitely wasn't a bunch of nobodies, but
at the same time, it's like you had Willem Dafoe in kind of a glorified cameo, and then a lot of the other actors and actresses, you might have recognized them from different things, but they weren't necessarily all like household names necessarily. Like I think Lawrence Fishburne is probably like still an A-list actor. Like people know who he is. Halle Berry definitely is like an A-list actress. She's like a household name. She's going to be in Parabellum, which I was like, how can they make this movie better? Oh, Halle Berry, and she has War Dogs.
God bless America.
Right. I was like,
fucking
USA. Oh, and she also has trained attack dogs. This is like, seriously, I'm suing whoever fucking wrote this movie. It's literally what I think about 24/7.
Yeah.
But I completely lost my train of thought. But it was...
That's all right. Halle Berry does it to the best of us.
God bless her. But you had people that you might recognize. Like, I know that Lance Reddick, who plays Charon, the... like the hotel manager at the Continental. He was on The Wire.
Okay.
I can't remember the character's name, but the older assassin that's up in the hotel a couple of rooms down from Wick, who actually the woman trying to kill Wick shoots him.
Yeah.
I can't remember
with the pillow on the face.
Yeah, I can't remember his character's name, but that actor played Lester Freeman, who was also on The Wire.
Okay.
Which is a great show. I highly recommend. But like I recognize them from
I need to get into it. I mean I've heard nothing but good things from several people. So
I know they were both in that as well as some other things. Of course, Ian McShane was in Deadwood, and he's been in a lot of other things. He's had a long career.
Yeah.
And then in 2, they added to it, so they had like Lawrence Fishburne and Ruby Rose, who is not as big a name, but this was around the time when like Orange and the New Black was still going gangbusters, so like a lot of people knew who she was from that. She was starting to get a lot of buzz, and she's branching out away from that show. Excuse me. She played Ares, the mute assassin, and her end is kind of ambiguous a little bit, because I think he just like stabs her and then leaves her in the elevator in the end of 2.
She's the one that dies in the
mirrors.
The mirrors, yeah.
Yeah, but she's just like, see you around, John, and he's just like, sure. And leaves, and
that's kind of like the assassin's like goodbye tagline, right? Regardless of whether you're, it's kind of like their Alvida for, like, hey, like you're actually like we're actually saying goodbye, or I'll see you later, or one of us is dying.
Right. And it's cool. It's kind of open ended.
Yeah.
So it might just be like, hey, later.
That's one thing that I picked up from. I of course, I rewatched the first one last night just to have it fresh, and that's one thing that I picked up from that that's a repeated line, especially in the first one.
It's also the tagline for 3, I believe, because the first poster I saw is just a close up on Keanu's face behind like a rain-soaked door with some neon lights. Like I said, man, this is like straight up my alley. And it's just like, be seeing you.
Okay.
It's dope. I love the marketing posters for the 3rd movie.
Yeah.
They're
very pretty.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, very pretty.
And like, there's just no way I'm going to be disappointed in this movie. It could literally be a 90-minute like Keanu Reeves lecture about
the color beige.
Right. And I'd be like, man, beige is kind of hopping. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I kind of fuck with beige right now.
Right. Keanu's
I always thought that
about
shit was just like gray, but nah, this shit knocks. You know?
Right. I mean, it's good with khaki. I mean, it goes good with brown.
Right.
It's so versatile.
It's got range.
Yeah, right. It does. It's like the Meryl Streep of colors.
Right. Give that shit an Oscar right now. But I mean, I'm super excited for it.
Ditto, my friend.
It looks like they turned it up to 10 in Wick 2, and now they're just like, all right, fuck it. Now the whole world's after him. Good luck, motherfucker. 11, 12. Like, they just...
No, they ripped the knob off once they cranked it to 11 with 2. So I think they just
had
like
to
threw the whole
surgically
thing,
repair the knob and then crank it up again and re-break it off.
Right.
For 3.
Yeah, they just like strapped, a jet engine battery to it and just...
They strapped a car battery to it, and then we're like, all right, let's go.
Right. Yeah, we're going to do the Motley Crue version of movies now. So.
Hey, do you guys like cocaine? Well, here's a lot of it.
Well, there's a lot of it, yeah.
Yeah. It looks awesome.
No, I mean, I really don't have a whole lot to say. Like, I'm kind of the person that doesn't like to speculate a whole lot about what's going to happen. I'd much rather go in with a little speculation on my part and let myself be surprised.
Definitely. And like, this is, as we talked about for the storyline for 1, like, this is not a huge complicated story,
right?
Like, where people are like with Game of Thrones, for example, where people are constantly speculating about like what could happen this season.
Right.
Or like before Endgame came out, people were speculating like, what's this character going to do?
Who's going to die? Who's coming back? Who's
like,
dead?
You don't need
real?
to do any of that with this.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just like stories cool. Like, you got to have a story, but they keep it just engaging enough story wise, so they can get from point A to point B. And they're like, hey, along that, we're going to have a scenic stop at this action scene and a scenic stop at this action scene. And here, take some Gatorade. You're going to need it. Like, story is almost secondary.
Yeah.
As painful as it is for me to say that, being like the resident pretentious nerd.
Well, I mean, like we discussed earlier, these are action thrillers, and
it's not high art.
Like, the story doesn't need to be, front and center. What these movies have going for them, and like we discussed, they're very self-aware. Is the visual aspect of it,
definitely,
and you definitely need a cohesive storyline and plot to really buy into the movie, or else it's just your run-of-the-mill action film.
Right, but at the same time, you also don't want to go too crazy with it. So it's like, what do we know about Wick? Ex-assassin, retired because of his wife. She died. He just wants to live peacefully, as a widower. This little Russian fuck messes that up, so he takes him out. So that's the first movie. Start of the second one, he's trying to get his car back from Viggo's brother. I think it's his brother, played by Peter Stormare. And then he's just like, hey, I got my car. I killed your brother. Peace, right? And Peter Stormare's like, yeah, fuck yes, peace. Jesus Christ, you're burning my house down.
Right, yeah.
And then he's out again. He goes home, and then Santino shows up. So like, it's consistent in how it goes from like point A to point B to point C, without it being like, 17,000 twists and turns.
Yeah.
Like like you brought up Taken earlier, and I think the first Taken is a good movie. It's a good action movie, but like, I think it's got like one twist too many, where it's like, oh, the only other good character in this movie is a double agent or whatever that his friend was. I was like, oh Jesus, I don't need that. I just need to see Liam Neeson shooting Albanian people in the face. Or I can't remember.
I don't remember the national.
Ethnically ambiguous European people.
Yes. Yeah. The ones that kidnap you at the airport, try and convince you that, hey, there's rave later.
Right. And then get your daughter addicted to crack. Yeah, shoot them motherfuckers in the face 10 times out of 10 and I'll watch it.
Yes.
But I don't need all the extra bullshit. And I think Wick is really good about that, where it's just like, it's simple, but it's not stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold your hand through it.
Yeah, it definitely does a good job of all that, trimming the fat.
Exactly. It's a
being
lean and tight.
Mean fighting machine.
Yeah, that's what's good about him.
Yeah. We've covered basically all our notes. I mean, the only other thing, like, I mean, I jotted down like a couple of trivia things that have just kind of that have come up along the way that, Stileski, the noted director or credited director, he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in the Matrix films, in all 3 Matrix films. One thing we didn't really talk about but is a big thing, was Keanu Reeves doing most of his stunts, like 90 to 95% of his stunts.
Yeah, I thought that was really awesome. I mean, of course, he's got stunt training from The Matrix as well as some other action movies he'd done.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was just like, yeah, it was me. Some of the more dangerous stunts, which obviously any stunt is going to have an element of danger to it, but some of the like serious.
I think the according to the trivia on IMDb, which that's fan based, so got to take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, the only ones that he didn't do is where he got hit by a car.
Yeah, which I mean, I get it.
They need him in order to film the movie.
If he rolls his ankle, okay, well, we break for a couple of days and we're back at it. But like he gets hit by a car and breaks his legs, you fuck the whole movie.
Right.
So I mean, I definitely understand.
Yep.
As like callous and crude as that sounds, like, hey, let this other guy maybe die by getting hit by a car rather
because
than our
that's
star.
what he gets paid to do.
Right.
And that's his sole purpose. One thing that another thing that I read was. There's a couple people in the first movie that their reaction is like, oh, but they say it in the style almost sounding like whoa. From the Matrix.
Typical Keanu sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he typically does the whoa. Like
he did that, and that came from Bill and Ted originally, where he's just like,
okay.
Whoa.
Okay, and then the Matrix was kind of like a callback to that. Okay, I get it. That was kind of like I guess, sort of a tribute to that, and then
because that whoa is kind of a meme at this point.
I mean, not as much as fucking Owen Wilson's wow, like it's not as much of a meme as that,
right? But
and we made reference to the Greek mythology stuff, and and how he just prepared for the role by doing gratuitous amounts of training in different things, in marksmanship, and different MMA.
I'm pretty convinced that Keanu Reeves could be an actual assassin if he wanted to.
Probably.
But he seems like such an awesome dude that he wouldn't do that.
That's also probably true.
Yeah. All right, so one last thing before we wrap up. A segment that we're going to do on every episode that will be independent of whatever the topic we discussed is going to be kind of a recommendation sort of segment. It's called Shit That Doesn't Suck.
Yeah.
It's basically just whatever David or I have seen lately that we recommend everybody check out. So do you want to go first?
You go first, because I need to think about shit that I have seen lately that doesn't suck.
Okay. So I have been on a really big wushu martial arts film kick. I revisited 2002's Hero yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were telling me about that.
Starring Jet Li as Nameless, who's just badass.
Is his name Nameless?
Yeah, like his character's name is Nameless. Yeah.
Wow, that's
unique. It's a story point. It's not really a spoiler.
Okay.
He mentions that within the first few lines. It's it's a Chinese wushu film, martial arts film. But the way it's shot, it's really beautiful. Like the colors are very bright and vibrant. One of my biggest complaints about a lot of modern movies is that the color palettes are all the same.
Okay.
This one's very bright. It's got a lot of different colors, so it's not just like, oh, everything's bright red or everything's bright blue. Like there's scenes where it is like very like startlingly bright reds.
Okay.
But it's really great. It's told from predominantly Jet Li's perspective as his character Nameless, but then there's some back and forth, and it's really awesome. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who may not have seen it. It's like a 20-year-old movie just about, but I highly recommend it. It's very super stylized. So if you're into kung fu movies, you'll probably be into this. It's got a lot of what you might call like wire fu, where it's the characters doing things that like human beings are not capable of doing, basically like flying through the air. But it's awesome. Fight choreography is great. Highly recommend it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out whenever I get a second.
It is on a streaming service that I don't want to name because I don't want to get sued. But you probably have it. They have a lot of original content.
Okay.
It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. That's how I watched it because I didn't want to dig it.
Why would we get sued?
I don't know, man. I just don't want to get sued.
I mean, it's not like
we can cut that joke. It's not that funny.
I mean, if we monetized, we might have to be concerned. But I mean, we're just talking about Netflix. Yeah. So,
but highly recommend it. It's available on Netflix. Definitely recommend that you check it out. I'm not sure if it's got, like, if it's one of the ones that's going to leave by the end of May or whatever. I don't remember. I saw it on there and I was like, hell yeah, I want to watch that play. But yeah, definitely check it out if you're into martial arts movies at all.
Right. My shit that doesn't suck is extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. And if you are not aware of the title, of course it is quite long and verbose. It's the biopic that a lot of people have been talking about of Ted Bundy. Everyone in their respective roles did a great job, especially Zac Efron. He did a great job of just being really shockingly evil and vile. Just doing a great job of playing Ted Bundy and the fucking creep that he was. I mean, I know that, you know, he's infamous for being this, you know, really charming, good-looking guy that all these girls just couldn't get over the fact that he did all these disgusting, vile things to these women in these murders.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was, like, conventionally handsome to a lot of people is part of the reason he was able to get away with it for so long.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my shit that doesn't suck. I think this went great, and the fact that we've done this 4 times now, I mean, this was the first official episode of you know, Goes to the Movies, but you know, I think we're doing good, man.
We're doing great.
I'm so proud of us. But yeah, so before we sign off, I would like to give a shout out to a newcomer podcast that I just kind of met up with and started communicating with, and they are the Freakin' Geekin' Podcast. They were kind enough to give us a shout out on their latest episode. So I thought I'd return the favor. You should definitely go check them out. They're awesome. They only have, like I said, they're brand new and they only have 3 episodes, but the dynamic between Dakota, who's the host, and I am so sorry, I am blanking on your friend's name. I apologize. I know that he's not on there all the time, but yes, you should definitely go check them out. They're on Twitter at the Freakin' Cast, and they are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. They might be available elsewhere, but of course, you know, those are kind of like the 3 kings right now. So
yeah, based on your recommendation, I had a few minutes earlier where I was able to check out. Maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and I was enjoying what I heard. Granted, it's only 10 or 15 minutes, but I'm sure if the rest of us like that, it'll definitely be enjoyable. So I'll go ahead and throw my recommend on there as well. Plus, they seem like good dudes.
Yeah, no, they definitely they're cool. Like I was listening to their first episode, and this is not a slight on them at all, but you know, for you know an extended period of time, they were just kind of talking back and forth and. Not really talking about anything geek media related or anything related to a topic per se, but I was just enjoying like their dynamic and their back and forth. Like it's kind of cool to just listen to 2 people that have, you know, been friends for a long time, just kind of discuss, you know, old times and, you know, good times, new times, and just chill and have a good time. So yeah, you should definitely check them out. Like I said,
they're like the talented version of us. So if you can sit through what we're doing, you'll probably enjoy them a lot more.
Right? Yeah, they have good quality sounds. I don't know what kind of mics they're using.
They have the best sound.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, our mics aren't bad. They're okay. I got them on Amazon. Does that tell you anything?
These are like B+ mics at best.
All right. Well, I mean, you can get like Blue Yeti mics on Amazon. Those are pretty good.
I have one of those.
Yeah, it's pretty dope, right?
It's nice.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah,
this just got so away from. I don't know how it got away from us this badly.
It happens.
Yeah, I think we're done. That's it.
Yeah. We should just press stop, right?
Yeah.
Cool.